The ballroom went silent. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors. A string quartet played Vivaldi near the windows overlooking Chicago's skyline. 200 of the wealthiest people in America filled the 72nd floor of the Harrington Tower, champagne glasses catching the light like diamonds. At the center table sat Preston Harrington. Tech billionaire. Philanthropic icon. The man whose software ran half the hospitals in the country. He lifted a silver fork toward his mouth. The truffle scallop glistened under the chandelier light, seared perfectly, glazed with black garlic reduction, plated on bone china worth more than most people's cars. Then a voice cut through the orchestra. "Don't eat that food." Every head turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Forks froze. A waiter dropped a tray somewhere in the back. The voice came from near the service entrance, a small figure standing between two potted palms, barefoot on cold marble. A black girl. No older than 10. Wearing donated jeans 2 sizes too big and a faded purple hoodie with a broken zipper. Too small. Too poor. Too impossible to be real. Security moved instantly. 2 men in black suits crossed the floor in seconds, hands already reaching for her thin shoulders. But Preston Harrington didn't move. He sat perfectly still, fork suspended 6 inches from his lips. Because for half a second, just half, he smelled it too. Something wrong. Something that didn't belong in a dish worth $300. "Sir," one of the security guards said quietly. "We'll handle this." Preston's jaw tightened. His eyes stayed locked on the girl. She wasn't crying. Wasn't struggling. Wasn't screaming for attention like the guests assumed. She just stood there, staring at his plate. Her nose twitched once. "Whose child is this?" someone hissed from table 4. A board member's wife laughed nervously. "Security's getting sloppy." A congressman leaned toward his aide. "Get her out before the press sees." But the girl didn't look at any of them. She looked only at Preston. And when their eyes met, something shifted in the room. "Let her speak," Preston said. The security guards hesitated. "Sir, she's clearly..." "I said let her speak." The room inhaled collectively. The girl took 1 step forward. Her shoes, she wasn't wearing any, left no sound on the marble. "It's wrong," she said quietly. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't shake. It simply stated a fact. "The sauce," she continued. "On your plate. It smells wrong." A ripple of laughter rolled through the tables. A tech executive smirked. "Kids these days want to go viral." A venture capitalist chuckled into his wine. "Probably saw it on TikTok." A woman in diamonds whispered, "This is what happens when you let them cater." Preston ignored them all. He lowered his face toward the plate. Inhaled slowly. There. Beneath the truffle oil and garlic and butter, something metallic. Sharp. Bitter. Like copper wire left in the rain. Like chemicals burning in a basement. His hand stopped midair. The fork trembled slightly. "What do you smell?" he asked. The room went quiet again, but this time, the silence felt different. Heavier. The girl's eyes didn't leave his plate. "I don't know the name," she said. "But I've smelled it before." Preston set the fork down carefully. "Where?" "At a soup kitchen on 47th Street. Pause. "Then at a free clinic on the south side." Another pause. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Both places closed after people got sick." The air turned cold. Someone coughed uncomfortably. A photographer's camera clicked once, then stopped. Preston Harrington pushed his chair back slowly. The screech of wood on marble echoed like a gunshot. "Call poison control," he said. Gasps erupted. "Preston, you can't be serious. This is absurd." She's clearly lying for attention, but Preston wasn't listening anymore. He was watching the girl. She stood perfectly still, hands at her sides, chin slightly raised. Not afraid. Not angry. Just certain. And in that moment, Preston Harrington realized something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. She wasn't guessing. She knew. Most people would have ignored her. Most already did. If you're still watching, you're not most people, but will you stay when it gets darker? Keep watching. Who is this girl? And how does she know what a billionaire's chef doesn't? Her name was Naomi Carter. She was 10 years old, 4 feet 6 inches tall, and owned exactly 7 items: 3 shirts, 2 pairs of pants, 1 backpack, and a notebook she didn't write in. She lived nowhere. Or more accurately, she lived between foster homes, between shelters, between the cracks where the system forgot to look. This week, she was staying at a group home on the south side. Next week, she'd probably be somewhere else. The social workers called her difficult to place. What they meant was, quiet kids don't get remembered, and Naomi never made noise. She learned early that adults didn't listen. So she learned to listen instead. To everything. To the way air smelled before a storm. To the sound of footsteps that meant danger. To the hum of refrigerators breaking down before the food spoiled. She learned that silence kept you safe, but attention got you hurt. Her mother taught her that. Before the system took Naomi away. Before the world decided her mother wasn't stable enough to raise her own child. Before everything fell apart. Naomi's mother, Renee Carter, had worked the night shift at Methodist Hospital. Janitor. Floor 9, Oncology Wing. She mopped blood. Emptied bedpans. Scrubbed operating rooms after midnight when everyone else went home. And she taught Naomi how to smell danger. "Your nose will save you one day, baby," Renee used to say, kneeling beside her daughter in their tiny apartment kitchen. "Not your eyes. Not your ears. Your nose." She'd quiz Naomi while folding laundry. "What's that smell?" Naomi would sniff the air. "Bleach and something sweet." "Good. What does sweet mean?" "Medicine. Something spilled." "Where?" "The bathroom. Under the sink." Her mother would smile, kiss her forehead, and check. She was always right. Naomi learned to identify infections before doctors noticed. Mold before it spread. Gas leaks before alarms went off. She learned that chemicals had signatures, invisible fingerprints only certain noses could read. And she learned that grown-ups got angry when children knew things they didn't. When Naomi was 7, she told a teacher the cafeteria milk smelled wrong. The teacher laughed. "It's fine, sweetie. You're just picky." 30 kids got food poisoning that afternoon. When Naomi was 8, she told a foster parent the heater smelled like burning plastic. "Stop making things up for attention." The house caught fire 2 days later. When Naomi was 9, she told a caseworker that a man at the shelter smelled like the stuff her mother used to clean biohazard rooms. "Don't be dramatic, Naomi." That man was arrested 3 weeks later for running an illegal disposal operation in the basement. Every time, the same pattern. Naomi knew. Adults dismissed her. Reality proved her right. And by the time she turned 10, Naomi stopped trying to warn people. She just watched. Listened. Survived. Until tonight. Tonight, she wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the Harrington Tower. She was supposed to be at the group home, eating reheated spaghetti and finishing her homework. But Ms. Talbot, the coordinator, had gotten a last-minute call to staff the gala's coat check. Easy money. 3 hours. Cash under the table. "Naomi, you're coming with me. Stay quiet, stay out of sight, and we'll get pizza after." Naomi agreed because pizza sounded better than spaghetti. They entered through the service entrance. Ms. Talbot disappeared into the coat room. Naomi was told to wait in the kitchen hallway. So she waited. And while she waited, she smelled. The kitchen was chaos, 30 chefs shouting orders, flames roaring, metal clanging. But underneath the noise, beneath the garlic and butter and wine, that smell. The one she'd smelled at the soup kitchen before it closed. The one she'd smelled at the clinic before people started getting sick. Sharp. Metallic. Wrong. Naomi's stomach turned. She stepped closer to the prep station. A line cook was plating scallops, drizzling black sauce over each one with robotic precision. The sauce. It was coming from the source. Naomi watched him plate 20 dishes. Watched servers carry them toward the ballroom. She didn't think. She just moved. Pushed through the swinging doors. Walked barefoot across marble floors surrounded by people who cost more than she'd ever be worth. And when she saw the man at the center table, the one everyone was watching, the one lifting the fork, she shouted. Because silence kept you safe. But sometimes, silence killed. She broke every rule she'd ever learned to survive. Would you risk everything for a stranger? Comment below. Most people won't answer honestly. What's in the sauce? And why does a homeless child recognize a poison that professional chefs don't? Security grabbed her by both arms. Not gently. The guards lifted Naomi off the floor, her bare feet dangling 6 inches above marble. Let go of me, she said, not yelling, not crying, just stating a fact. You're done, kid, one guard growled. Time to go. The ballroom erupted in whispers. Who let her in? Is this a prank? Someone's getting fired tonight. A board member stood, red-faced. This is unacceptable. Get her out before she ruins the entire. Wait. Preston Harrington's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone stopped. The guards froze mid-step, still holding Naomi in the air. Preston stood slowly, his eyes locked on the small girl suspended between 2 men 3 times her size. Put her down, he said quietly. Sir, she's clearly, I said put her down. They lowered her carefully. Naomi's feet touched the floor. She didn't run. Didn't fight. She just stood there, looking at Preston with those wide, unblinking eyes. What's your name? Preston asked. Naomi. Naomi what? Carter. He nodded slowly. Naomi Carter. You said my food smells wrong. Yes, sir. Why do you think that? A woman in pearls laughed sharply. Oh, for heaven's sake, Preston. She's a child playing a game. Don't encourage this. Preston didn't look at her. Why, Naomi? Naomi's nose twitched again. The sauce. It has something in it that doesn't belong. How do you know? I've smelled it before. Where? Naomi hesitated. Not because she didn't know. Because she'd learned that when you tell the truth, people call you a liar. But she'd already gone this far. At St. Anthony's Soup Kitchen, she said quietly. 6 months ago. They served chicken with brown sauce. It smelled like that. Pause. 12 people got sick. 3 died. They said it was bad chicken, but it wasn't the chicken. It was the sauce. The room went dead silent. Preston's jaw clenched. Where else? Franklin Free Clinic. 2 months ago. What happened there? People started getting dizzy after taking medicine. They thought it was side effects. But the medicine smelled wrong. Like metal and chemicals mixed together. How many people? 8 that I saw. The clinic closed the next week. A murmur rippled through the crowd, but this time, it wasn't laughter. It was fear. Preston turned to his head of security. Get the plate. Get it tested. Now. The man hesitated. Sir, this is, now. The guard grabbed the plate carefully, holding it like evidence. A venture capitalist stood. Preston, you're not seriously listening to some street kid. That street kid just saved my life. You don't know that, then let's find out. A woman in a red gown leaned toward her husband. This is insane. He's going to embarrass himself. But Preston wasn't embarrassed. He was watching Naomi. She hadn't moved. Hadn't flinched. Hadn't tried to run. She just stood there, hands at her sides, breathing slowly through her nose. Like she was reading the air itself. Naomi, Preston said quietly. How old are you? 10. Where are your parents? Gone. Where do you live? Different places. His chest tightened. Who takes care of you? Naomi shrugged. I take care of me. Preston felt something crack open inside him. This child, this tiny, barefoot, invisible child, had just walked into a room full of billionaires and stopped him from eating poison. And no one was taking care of her. Sir. A paramedic approached, holding a small testing kit. Preston turned. Well? The medic's face went pale. Positive for industrial solvent. Trace amounts. Colorless. Odorless to most people. Gasps erupted. Someone screamed. A photographer's camera flashed. Preston staggered backward. The paramedic continued, voice shaking. If you'd ingested this, sir, you wouldn't have made it to the hospital. The ballroom exploded into chaos. Guests shouted. Security scrambled. Phones came out. But Preston didn't hear any of it. He was staring at Naomi. This child, this invisible, forgotten, dismissed child, had just saved his life. And suddenly, nothing else mattered. Right now, someone near you knows something important. But you're not listening. You never do. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens when the truth fights back. The poison is real. The girl was right. But who put it there? And why? ***. The paramedics arrived within minutes. So did police. The ballroom transformed from celebration into crime scene. Yellow tape, flashing lights, suited investigators moving table to table like sharks. Guests were told to stay seated. No one left. No one spoke. They just watched as evidence bags were labeled, phones were confiscated, and the entire 72nd floor became a cage. Preston sat at his table, hands folded, staring at the empty space where his plate used to be. Naomi stood near the window, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders by a paramedic who didn't know what else to do. A detective approached Preston, tall, gray-haired, wearing a rumpled suit that had seen too many late nights. Mr. Harrington. Detective Luis Ortega, CPD. I need to ask you some questions. Preston nodded slowly. Go ahead. Do you have any enemies? Preston almost laughed. I'm a billionaire, detective. I have 400 enemies in this room alone. Anyone specific? Anyone who's threatened you recently? Dozens. My legal team handles it. Ortega scribbled something in his notepad. What about your chef? How long have they worked for you? Marcus has been with me for 8 years. He's vetted. Loyal. There's no way, we'll need to speak with him. Across the room, Marcus Delacroix sat hunched in a chair, head in his hands, flanked by 2 officers. The man looked destroyed. I didn't add anything, Marcus whispered, voice cracking. I didn't. I swear to God, I didn't. Then how did it get there? An officer asked. I don't know. Ortega turned back to Preston. Here's what we know so far. The toxin is industrial grade. Not something you accidentally ingest. Someone put it there deliberately. Preston's blood went cold. This wasn't random, Ortega continued. This was targeted. This was you. The words hung in the air like smoke. Preston had always known his work made enemies. His company, Harrington Global, provided software for hospitals, insurance companies, pharmaceutical distributors. Billions of dollars moving through systems he controlled. People had sued him. Threatened him. Protested outside his buildings. But poison? That was different. That was personal. Detective, Preston said slowly. This isn't the first time. Ortega's pen stopped mid-word. What? 3 people connected to my company have died in the past 14 months. All labeled accidents. Who? Gregory Monroe. Internal auditor. Died in a car crash. Miranda Voss. Compliance officer. Heart attack. Terrence Liu. Whistleblower. Overdose. Ortega's eyes narrowed. You think those were connected? I didn't. Until tonight. Preston's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Someone's been cleaning house, detective. And I was supposed to be next. The room seemed to tilt. Ortega's jaw tightened. Do you have proof? No. But I have patterns. Patterns don't hold up in court. They do when someone's trying to kill you. Ortega exhaled sharply. We'll need access to your company records. All of them. You'll have them by morning. Across the room, Naomi watched silently. She could hear everything. Not because she was eavesdropping, but because no one remembered she was there. Invisible again. A server walked past her, hands shaking, face pale. Naomi's nose twitched. That smell. The same smell from the source. She turned her head slightly, tracking the server as they disappeared into the kitchen hallway. Something was wrong. Not just the poison. Something else. She moved quietly toward the service corridor, slipping past distracted officers and panicking guests. No one stopped her. No one saw. The hallway was dim, fluorescent lights flickering overhead, stainless steel counters reflecting shadows. Naomi followed the smell. It led her to a storage closet near the back exit. The door was cracked open. Inside, she saw him. A man in a dark suit, mid-50s, silver hair, expensive watch. He was deleting something on his phone, fingers moving fast, eyes darting toward the hallway every few seconds. Naomi recognized him. Not his face. His smell. Copper and sweat. Fear and adrenaline. The smell people gave off when they were about to run. The man's phone buzzed. He answered in a harsh whisper. It failed. The girl, yes, a child, I don't know how she knew. No, I'm leaving now. Burn everything. I'll be gone before they connect it. Naomi's heart pounded. She stepped backward, her foot hit a metal tray. Clang! The man's head snapped toward the door. Their eyes met. For one frozen second, neither moved. Then the man bolted. He shoved past Naomi, knocking her into the wall, and sprinted toward the exit. Naomi hit the ground hard but didn't cry out. She scrambled to her feet and ran back toward the ballroom. Stop him, she screamed. Officers turned. The man in the dark suit. He did it. He's running. Detective Ortega spun around just in time to see a figure in a tailored suit disappear into the stairwell. Freeze! Police! 3 officers bolted after him. Preston stood, chest heaving. Who was that? Naomi pointed. He was on the phone. He said it failed. He said to burn everything. Ortega's face went white. He grabbed his radio. All units, suspect fleeing south stairwell, male, 50s, dark suit, static. Then a voice crackled back. We've got him. He's cornered on 68. Preston turned to Naomi, eyes wide. Who was he? Preston whispered. Naomi shook her head. I don't know. But he smelled scared. Ortega's radio buzzed again. Detective, you need to see this. We found his phone. There's a lot here. 5 minutes later, they brought him back in cuffs. The man didn't struggle. Didn't speak. Just stared at the floor as officers read him his rights. Preston walked closer, studying the man's face. Then his stomach dropped. Miles! The man looked up. Miles Rourke. Senior Vice President of Operations. Preston's right hand for 12 years. The man who built half the company. The man Preston trusted with everything. Why? Preston whispered. Miles said nothing. But his silence was answer enough. You just watched a billion-dollar empire crack open in real time. And it started with a 10-year-old no one believed. If you're not subscribed yet, you're already behind. Don't wait for the next truth to pass you by. Preston's most trusted ally tried to kill him. But why? And what did those 3 dead whistleblowers know? Miles Rourke sat in handcuffs. Under the chandeliers that had witnessed 1,000 corporate victories, he now sat surrounded by police, journalists, and the very people he'd tried to protect from the truth. Detective Ortega leaned against the wall, arms crossed, studying the man like a puzzle with missing pieces. Start talking, Miles. Miles said nothing. His lawyer hadn't arrived yet. His phone was in evidence. His empire was crumbling in real time. But he wasn't talking. Preston stood 10 feet away, hands trembling, face drained of color. 12 years. 12 years of partnership. Of trust. Of building something together. And Miles had tried to kill him. Why? Preston's voice cracked. Just tell me why. Miles finally looked up. His eyes weren't angry. They were tired. You were going to ruin everything, Miles said quietly. What are you talking about? The audit. The real one. The one you commissioned last month. Preston froze. He had commissioned an independent audit, quietly, discreetly, after noticing irregularities in the pharmaceutical distribution contracts. Numbers that didn't add up. Payments that disappeared into shell companies. Clinics that closed without explanation. He'd told no one. Except his auditor. Gregory Monroe. Who died 3 weeks later in a car crash. You killed Gregory, Preston whispered. Miles didn't deny it. He found the discrepancies, Miles said flatly. He was going to expose the entire network. I couldn't let that happen. What network? Miles laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. You really don't know, do you? You built the system, Preston. You just never asked what we were doing with it. Ortega stepped forward. What system? Miles leaned back in his chair, cuffs clinking against metal. Harrington Global provides software to 600 hospitals. Manages pharmaceutical distribution for half the Midwest. Processes insurance claims for 12 million people. He paused. And for the last 4 years, we've been using that access to move product. Preston's stomach dropped. What product? Expired medications. Recalled equipment. Drugs that failed trials. Where? Low-income clinics. Free hospitals. Shelters. The room went silent. Someone gasped. A journalist's pen stopped mid-word. Preston staggered backward like he'd been shot. You're lying. I'm not. You poisoned poor people for profit. Miles met his eyes. I maximized resources. That's what you hired me to do. I hired you to run operations, not commit mass murder. No one was supposed to die, Miles said coldly. The doses were calculated. Minimal risk. Acceptable margins. Acceptable margins. Preston lunged forward. Security grabbed him before he reached Miles. You killed people. Preston screamed. You killed Gregory. You killed Miranda. You killed Terrence. They were going to destroy the company, Miles said evenly. They were going to cost us billions. I did what needed to be done. Ortega's jaw clenched. How many people got sick? Miles shrugged. I don't have exact numbers. Guess. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. A woman in the back of the room vomited. Someone started crying. A board member stood, face ashen. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know. Ortega turned to him. Sit down. No one's leaving until we sort this out. Preston couldn't breathe. His company, his life's work, had been poisoning the most vulnerable people in the city. And he'd been too blind to see it. How long? Preston whispered. 4 years. How much money? 600 million. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. Preston turned away, hands over his face. Across the room, Naomi stood silently, watching. She'd heard every word. And unlike the adults, she wasn't surprised. She'd seen this before. Not the scale. But the pattern. Rich people poisoning poor people because no one was watching. Because no one cared. Because people like her didn't matter. Ortega pulled out his phone, scrolling through Miles's seized messages. His face went pale. Mr. Harrington, Ortega said slowly. There's something else. What? Miles wasn't working alone. Preston turned. Who else? Ortega showed him the screen. Names. Dates. Transactions. 3 other executives. 2 board members. 1 city health inspector. An entire network built on silence and greed. Preston felt the floor tilt beneath him. They're all here, Ortega said quietly. At this gala. Right now. Panic rippled through the crowd. People stood. Whispers escalated into shouts. I want a lawyer, I had no knowledge, this is slander, Ortega raised his voice. Nobody moves. Officers positioned themselves at every exit. The ballroom had become a trap. Preston walked slowly toward Naomi. She looked up at him with those wide, knowing eyes. You saved my life, Preston said quietly. Naomi shook her head. I just smelled the poison. No. You did more than that. He knelt down to her level. The places you mentioned. St. Anthony's. Franklin Clinic. Those were ours. Harrington Global funded them. Naomi nodded. I know. How? She reached into her backpack, the same frayed backpack she carried everywhere, and pulled out a folded notebook. Small. Water-stained. Held together with rubber bands. A man dropped this behind the clinic, Naomi said. 2 months ago. I kept it because it smelled wrong. Preston took it carefully. Opened it. Inside were handwritten notes. Dates. Locations. Chemical formulas. Shipment schedules. Dosage calculations. Patient reactions. And at the bottom of one page, a name written in hurried script. *** Renee Carter. *** Preston's blood turned to ice. Who is Renee Carter? He whispered. Naomi's voice didn't shake. My mother. Everything just changed. The villain isn't one man, it's a system. And the girl who exposed it? She's been carrying the evidence this whole time. Don't scroll past this. Subscribe. Naomi's mother knew. And whatever she discovered got her erased. But the truth didn't die with her. ***. The notebook trembled in Preston's hands. He stared at the name. ***. Renee Carter. ***. Then he looked at Naomi. Your mother worked at Franklin Clinic. Naomi nodded. Before that. Methodist Hospital. Night shift. Floor 9. Preston's mind raced. Methodist Hospital. Harrington Global had a contract there. Pharmaceutical disposal services. Equipment sterilization. Supply chain management. What did she do there? Preston asked. Cleaned, Naomi said simply. Mopped floors. Emptied trash. Stuff people don't notice. But she noticed something. Naomi's eyes didn't blink. She always noticed. Ortega stepped closer, reading over Preston's shoulder. The notebook was meticulous. Dates matched shipments. Chemical names matched recalled drugs. Patient symptoms matched known side effects. Your mother was documenting everything, Ortega said quietly. Naomi nodded. She said something was wrong. She said people were getting sick from medicine that was supposed to help them. Did she report it? 3 times. To who? Hospital administration. Her supervisor. Someone from the company. Preston's chest tightened. What happened? They told her she was wrong. They said she didn't understand medicine. They said she was just a janitor. Naomi's voice stayed flat. Emotionless. Like she'd told this story before and no one believed her then either. 2 weeks later, they fired her, Naomi continued. Said she stole supplies. She didn't. But they needed a reason. Then what? Then she tried to find proof. She kept working nights at different clinics. Free places. Shelters. Anywhere Harrington Global had contracts. She was following the pattern, Ortega said. She was trying to save people, Naomi corrected. Preston flipped through more pages. Every entry was detailed. Locations. Symptoms. Timelines. This wasn't paranoia. This was evidence. Where is your mother now? Preston asked gently. Naomi's jaw tightened. For the first time all night, her eyes showed something other than calm. Pain. I don't know, she whispered. She disappeared 8 months ago. Disappeared? She dropped me at a friend's house. Said she'd be back in 2 hours. She never came back. Ortega's face darkened. Did you file a missing persons report? The police said she probably just left. Said it happens all the time with single mothers. But you don't think she left? Naomi shook her head. She wouldn't leave me. Not without saying goodbye. Preston's hands curled into fists. Another name. Another person who tried to tell the truth. Another life erased. Miles, Preston said, turning toward the man in handcuffs. Where is she? Miles stared at the floor. Where is she? I don't know. You're lying. I'm not. Miles snapped. I didn't handle that part. I just gave the order. What order? Miles went silent. Ortega stepped between them. What order, Miles? Silence. We can add kidnapping to the charges. Murder if we find a body. Talk now and maybe you get a deal. Miles exhaled slowly. She was getting too close. She had proof. She was going to the press. So you what? Killed her? I didn't kill anyone. I just made a call. To who? A contractor. Someone who handles problems quietly. Preston lunged again. This time, 3 officers held him back. "You killed her." "I made her disappear," Miles shouted. "There's a difference." Naomi stood perfectly still. She'd already known. Deep down, she'd known for 8 months. Her mother wasn't coming back. But hearing it out loud made it real. Made it permanent. Ortega crouched in front of Naomi. "Naomi, listen to me. We're going to find out what happened to your mother. I promise." Naomi didn't respond. She just stared at Miles. And for the first time all night, she looked like what she was. A 10-year-old girl who'd lost everything. Preston knelt beside her. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Naomi turned to him slowly. "You didn't know," she said quietly. "I should have." "How?" "You weren't looking." The words cut deeper than any accusation. Because she was right. Preston hadn't been looking. None of them had. They'd built systems. Made money. Celebrated success. And never once asked who was paying the price. Ortega stood, phone to his ear. "I need a forensic team at Methodist Hospital. And I need a warrant for all Harrington Global contractor records. Now." He turned to Preston. "We're going to tear this whole thing apart." Preston nodded. "Do it. All of it. I don't care what it costs." "It's going to cost everything." "Good." Across the room, journalists were already typing. Cameras were already rolling. By morning, this wouldn't just be a scandal. It would be the biggest corporate crime story in a decade. And at the center of it all was a 10-year-old girl holding a water-stained notebook. The only evidence her mother left behind. The only proof that someone had tried to fight back. Her mother was erased for telling the truth. Naomi almost was too. But you're still here, watching. That means something. Subscribe if you believe the small voices deserve to be heard. The conspiracy is exposed. But Miles said he didn't kill Renee, he made her disappear. Where is she? And is she still alive? The arrests happened in waves. First Miles Rourke. Then 3 executives whose names appeared in the notebook. Then 2 board members who'd signed off on the shell companies. Then the city health inspector who'd buried 14 separate complaints. One by one, they were cuffed. Read their rights. Walked past cameras and flashing lights and a crowd that had gone from celebration to horror in less than 2 hours. The ballroom emptied slowly. Guests were interviewed. Phones were seized. Statements were recorded. No one left without giving their name. By midnight, the 72nd floor of Harrington Tower looked like a war zone. Yellow tape. Evidence markers. Police radios crackling. And in the center of it all, Naomi sat on a chair too big for her, wrapped in a blanket, holding her notebook. A victim's advocate knelt beside her. "Naomi, we're going to take you somewhere safe tonight, okay?" Naomi nodded. "Do you have any family? Anyone we can call?" "No friends." "No, is there anyone you trust?" Naomi looked across the room. At Preston Harrington, standing alone near the window, staring out at the city below. "Him," she said quietly. The advocate followed her gaze. "Mr. Harrington?" He listened. The advocate hesitated. "Naomi, he's part of the company that he didn't know," Naomi interrupted. "And now he does. That's different." Preston felt eyes on him and turned. When he saw Naomi looking at him, something inside him shifted. He walked over slowly. "Naomi," he said gently. "I want to help you." "I don't need help." "Yes, you do." She looked up at him. "Why?" "Because you saved my life. And because your mother tried to save thousands. And because," he stopped. Swallowed hard. "Because I owe her." Naomi studied his face. Adults lied all the time. Made promises they never kept. Said things they didn't mean. But this man's eyes looked different. Broken. Guilty. Honest. "What do you want to do?" Naomi asked. Preston crouched down. "I want to find your mother. I want to shut down every operation that hurt people. I want to make sure this never happens again." "You can't promise that." "No. But I can try." "Trying doesn't bring people back." "No. But it's better than doing nothing. Naomi was quiet for a long moment. Then she handed him the notebook. This was hers, she said. She'd want you to use it. Preston took it carefully, like it was made of glass. I will. I promise. Ortega approached, phone in hand, face grim. We got something. Preston stood. What? Contractor records. We traced the call miles made 8 months ago. And? It went to a private security firm. Off the books. They specialize in making problems disappear. Preston's pulse quickened. Did they find her? We're working on it. But there's something else. Ortega showed him his phone. A photo. Surveillance footage from a gas station outside the city. Timestamp, 8 months ago. A woman. Late 30s. Wearing a hospital janitor's uniform. Getting into a black van. Preston's breath caught. Is that her? Ortega looked at Naomi. Is this your mother? Naomi leaned forward. Stared at the grainy image. Her hands trembled. Yes, she whispered. Ortega nodded slowly. We're tracking the van. It's registered to a shell company in Indiana. We'll have a location by morning. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. But she didn't cry. She just stared at the photo. At the last known image of her mother. Still alive. Still fighting. Preston put a hand on her shoulder. We're going to find her, Naomi. What if she couldn't finish the sentence. Then we'll bring her home, Preston said quietly. Either way, we'll bring her home. Naomi nodded. Across the city, in a dozen newsrooms, the story was already breaking. Headlines formed. Billionaires company poisoned poor for-profit child exposes mass corporate conspiracy Texio nearly assassinated at own gala by dawn, every major outlet would run the story. By noon, federal investigators would be involved. By the end of the week, Harrington Global would be under siege. But none of that mattered to Naomi. All that mattered was the photo. And the hope, fragile and desperate, that somewhere, her mother was still alive. Justice is happening. But it's not over. Naomi's mother is still missing. And if you stop watching now, you'll never know if they find her. Stay until the end. They have a lead. They have a photo. But is Renee Carter still alive? Or has she been gone too long to save? 3 weeks later. The headlines had turned from breaking news to criminal trials. Federal charges. State investigations. Congressional hearings. Harrington Global's stock plummeted. Executives resigned. Contracts were terminated. The company Preston had built was being dismantled piece by piece, and he was helping. He sat in a courtroom every day. Testified. Handed over records. Watched as the people he trusted were led away in handcuffs. And every night, he returned to a question that haunted him. Where is Renee Carter? The search had gone cold twice. The van had been found abandoned in Gary, Indiana. No bodies. No blood. No evidence. Just another dead end. Until a tip came in. Anonymous. Untraceable. A single sentence, check the nursing home in Teyote. Ortega drove there himself. Preston came with him. So did Naomi. The Meadowbrook Care Facility sat on the edge of town, a low-slung building with peeling paint and a gravel parking lot. The kind of place people were sent to be forgotten. Ortega showed his badge at the front desk. We're looking for Renee Carter. The nurse frowned. We don't have anyone by that name. Check again. She typed slowly. No. No Renee Carter. Naomi stepped forward. Try Jane Doe. The nurse's fingers stopped. She looked up. Room 12. Preston's heart nearly stopped. They walked down a narrow hallway that smelled like disinfectant and old carpet. Room 12 was at the end. The door was half open. Inside, a woman sat in a wheelchair near the window, staring out at nothing. Thin. Pale. Hair cut short. Naomi froze. Mama? The woman didn't move. Naomi walked closer. Mama, it's me. Still nothing. Ortega spoke quietly to the nurse. What happened to her? She was brought in 8 months ago. No ID. No memory. Severe head trauma. We've been caring for her ever since. Preston's jaw clenched. Who brought her in? Anonymous drop-off. We tried to report it, but she trailed off. Naomi knelt in front of the wheelchair. Mama, she whispered. It's Naomi. I'm here. The woman's eyes flickered. Just once. I found your notebook, Naomi continued, voice cracking. I kept it safe. I did what you told me. I used my nose. I saved someone. Slowly, painfully slowly, the woman's hand moved. Reached out. Touched Naomi's face. And whispered one word. Baby. Naomi broke. She collapsed into her mother's lap, sobbing. 8 months of silence. 8 months of fear. 8 months of waiting. Over. Ortega turned away, wiping his eyes. Preston stood frozen, watching. This was what his company had done. Not just poisoned people. Destroyed families. Erased lives. And for what? Money? Efficiency? Acceptable margins? He felt sick. But he also felt something else. Responsibility. The doctors said Renee would recover. Slowly. Partially. But recover. Her memory was fractured. Her speech limited. But she was alive. And she recognized her daughter. That was enough. Preston established a fund. Not a corporate PR stunt. Not a tax write-off. A real, independent foundation, managed by external investigators, not donors. Its sole purpose, to identify and compensate every person harmed by Harrington Global's operations. Hospitals reopened. Clinics were rebuilt. Families received settlements. And for the first time in 4 years, people on the South Side didn't have to wonder if their medicine was poison. Naomi was placed in permanent foster care, with a family who actually wanted her. A family who listened. Preston made sure of it. He visited once a month. Brought books. Brought meals. Never asked for thanks. Just showed up. Because that's what you do when someone saves your life. You show up. At the final hearing, Preston stood before a judge and a room full of cameras. I built a company that valued profit over people, he said quietly. I trusted the wrong people. I ignored the warning signs. And because of that, thousands suffered. He paused. I can't undo that. But I can make sure it never happens again. The company was restructured. Independent oversight installed. Whistleblower protections codified. And on the main wall of the new headquarters, a single plaque was installed. Asterisk asterisk, we ignored the smallest voice in the room, and nearly paid for it with our lives. Asterisk 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 asterisk, Preston Harrington asterisk asterisk below it, a photo. Naomi Carter. Standing barefoot in a ballroom. Telling the truth no one wanted to hear. This story ends here. But somewhere right now, someone invisible knows something important. The question is, would you listen? Subscribe. Because the next truth might save your life too. 6 months later. Naomi sat in her new bedroom, small, clean, safe. A bed that didn't move. A door that locked from the inside. A window that overlooked a backyard. Her mother lived 3 blocks away in assisted living. They had dinner every Sunday. It wasn't perfect. But it was theirs. Preston called once a week. Not because he had to. Because Naomi reminded him of something he'd forgotten. That power means nothing without truth. That wealth means nothing without responsibility. That the smallest voice in the room might be the only one telling the truth. At a press conference months later, a reporter asked Preston if he regretted building Harrington Global. He thought for a long moment. I regret not listening sooner, he said. I regret every person who suffered because I was too blind to see. But do you regret the company itself? No. Because it taught me something. What? Preston looked directly into the camera. That the people we ignore are often the ones we need most. Naomi watched from home. She didn't smile. Didn't cry. Just nodded. Because she already knew that. She'd known it her whole life. If this story made you uncomfortable, good. Because somewhere near you, right now, someone invisible knows something important. A child who smells danger. A janitor who sees corruption. A stranger who notices the truth. The question is, would you listen? Or would you dismiss them because they are too small, too poor, too impossible to be right? Justice doesn't always come from the powerful. Sometimes it comes from the powerless. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. You just watched a 10-year-old dismantle a billion-dollar empire. Alone. Barefoot. Invisible. If you scrolled this far but didn't subscribe, ask yourself, what truth are you walking past every day? Subscribe now. The next story could be yours.